welcome to NTR Radio. I'm Tom Force Anubis.
I'm K-Gods.
And I'm your favorite doomer and coomer, but not a boomer, VZ Mark II.
Damn, son.
Yeah. NTR Radio, the Ocho. Yes. So it's been a little while, actually.
Yeah.
For various reasons. We're coming to you live from the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Why can nobody put together that fucking statue? It's not hard. There's three parts. It only goes together one way.
I don't know. I really don't know. But to get the mood right, I have a story. I sort of told Anubis this one already, but I think it'll be funnier via voice than explaining.
Before you get to that though, let's talk about getting in the chat. So if you're listening live, what you do is you go to ntrradio.net, click on the live chat link, enter your nickname in the box there, hit the button, and that'll bring you into the IRC channel. Alternatively, you can take your favorite IRC client, point it at irc.horizon.net, and join us in the # or hash SLC media channel. In addition, you can get at us on Twitter at @CAnubis, at VZMK2, at NTR_radio, and as always, the email address to get involved with the show is ntrradio@gmail.com.
Okay, so should we point out the book thing, or should we wait till the end?
The end. It's always the end.
Okay, so when I was in Arizona, I didn't actually talk about this last time, and I probably should have, because I think it really would have been more humorous then than it is now, simply because it was more recent, but I forgot. So I'm not going to mention the person's name in question because I don't want them really claiming that we're sending people after them. That sort of thing. I think you see what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I'll probably know who you're talking about too.
Oh yeah, you will. That's sad that you know that, but yes. Okay, so somebody we used to know. That's as much as you're going to get out of me on this one. They were telling me, my friends were telling me about something he said while we were having a conversation. I wasn't there, but those two with some other people.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, so here's what happened, all right? They were sitting there talking. I don't know exactly how the conversation got this way, but anyway, the person in question kept saying, or said liquid freeze when they meant liquid nitrogen. And of course they were laughing kind of at him. It was like, ha ha, what? Liquid freeze, what? And they were kind of just snickering and whatnot. But then he said this fucking whopper. He's like, come on, guys, it's not like it's rocket science. To where there was like this weird pause, and they just sort of looked at each other like, he didn't just fucking say that. No one can be that stupid. And they're like, laughing. And then he's like, come on, guys, it's not funny. And the one guy goes, just stop talking.
It's just cut your losses.
Yeah, you're only making yourself look worse here. Okay, so, like, how the fuck? It's not rocket science. Okay, I mean, such a great story. I was cracking up when they originally...
It's not rocket science, it's brain surgery.
Yeah, that Simpsons bit. Yeah. So that was a funny little story. It was one of those things where it's like they had told me the story before, but they didn't tell me that he said that. Like in response, like to them kind of laughing at him and poking fun. I'm like, yeah. You probably shouldn't have said that. That just made it look much worse. Anyway, how's everybody been doing there?
Very busy. Very busy.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it has to do with the season itself. It's just kind of been having to do lots of errands and get stuff before things get completely nuts at the store.
That's not it for me. It's just doing lots of art stuff.
Well, I mean, like,
busy like that.
Because trying to get supplies, the closer you get to the holidays, is always a nightmare.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
I mean, if like you need anything, even basic supplies like paper towels or toilet paper or anything like that, it's just going to be not fun. Because not only are you having to deal with people that are trying to buy other things, there's also the hoarders that are coming back out of the woodwork.
Well, it's like, so I was looking up, I think this is actually yesterday, I was looking up like new flight sim equipment because I have a set of rudder pedals and they kind of work sometimes. And the store I was looking at was like, just fair warning, we're out of stock in most flight sim equipment, because it was between a major flight simulator came out earlier this year, like in the fall, I think in September, and between that and the holiday season, specifically flight sim controllers are just it's going to be hard to find them. So I thought that was weird in particular, but that makes sense.
It's interesting. My favorite flight-related story or aviation-related story you've told is when you bought those books, but you also almost bought the ones at the same time, and then you realized that this is probably a bad idea.
This is a bad thing call to buy all of these books at the same time.
What were they again?
It was the United States the United States Federal Aviation Regulations.
Right.
And the U.S. Army Improvised Weapons Handbook.
Yeah. It's like, I probably shouldn't buy these at the same time.
I shouldn't buy both of these at the same time. That's probably a bad call.
I can just see somebody like quickly and very nervously smacking buttons underneath the thing. That's sort of a flag system.
How T.A. Anubis narrowly avoided getting put on a list.
Yeah. Good times. So what's everybody been watching and doing that's related to kind of our show?
You want to go first, Anubis?
Sure. I ain't been watching shit. Go on.
Right,
no,
I'll go.
I haven't.
The weather drop.
I haven't watched the latest 2 episodes of Strike Witches, I believe, but that's about it.
The last one I saw was shit. Let me check. I can check real quick. I've got it sitting right here. Yeah, the last one I saw was episode 7. I need to catch up.
Yeah, they're up to.
I was not disappointed by episode 7, by the way. It was exactly what I expected it to be, which was the silly fan service episode.
Yes, yeah. They're up to episode 10.
Are they? Okay. Yeah, so I'm definitely behind.
Yeah, the last one I watched was 8.
Okay. So there you go. But it's been pretty entertaining thus far. They're a lot more. They're a lot more snarky, I think, this time around. I guess that's really they just. I guess it just feels that way. It might just be because it's been a while since I've seen it, and I don't remember. But I don't remember them being quite as like ribbing each other as much. But maybe that's just faulty memory.
I can see where
he's been very good.
That I agree with. That I 100% agree with.
But
David Production is doing a fantastic job on it.
Oh no! It's been enjoyable the entire way, thus far, for at least.
Because if I found it boring, I would have dropped it long, but it hasn't been. So
it's like, okay, how can you make this show boring? I mean, really, think about the basis of what this is. How can you somehow make this boring?
Well, I mean,
I know, it's like when you
I'm not gonna lie. The Brave Witches was several rungs on the ladder below the first Strike Witches, as far as
I think
being
that
an
has
exciting
to do,
show, being a really good show goes.
I think that has to do more with the fact that the characters didn't kind of bounce off each other as well.
Which one?
Brave Witches.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're not really as.
The characters weren't as likable, and they didn't bounce off each other.
It's not as memorable. Like I don't really.
Didn't have as much
them.
chemistry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
The original characters, they work so well. Of course, the Love Live, the new one, has been great.
Mm-hmm.
I know, but it is like, You don't have to see the other ones to watch this one.
I gotcha. Well, I mean, I distinctly remember I had something else kind of on the docket that I kind of didn't drop it per se. I just didn't really. It wasn't good enough for me to really keep going. If that makes any sense.
Which one is that?
I wanted to try. What was it called? Princess Connect.
Oh, right. I remember you told me.
I got a couple episodes into it, and then I just sort of like drifted off and was like, "Oh yeah, I was supposed to be watching that."
See, I think you would love. Dropout Idol Fruit Tart. I know the title.
That name.
I think you would get a kick out of that one.
Yeah, so I'll put the Pop-Tart anime in the hat.
Pop-Tart anime.
Oh,
I mean, for one, it's a feel anime, so lots of ecchi and such.
I managed to injure myself the other day.
Again?
Yes. Check this one out.
Uh-oh.
I caught my foot on this fucking exercise bike. I was coming around the corner and like part of it was sticking out, and my right foot just fucking careened into it as I was coming around the corner. Just smashed it. It's all sliced up the middle and shit. It's like, fuck. I'm surprised I didn't wake any neighbors yelling about that. Because like I said, I hit it hard. I came around the corner and just bam, full force, and it was just hurt like a son of a bitch. Obviously not enough to keep me away from doing this podcast, but certainly didn't feel good at the time.
And of course, I'm watching new is the Aura Rabbit season. Everything this season's been very strong. It's sort of like the average amount of shows, but it's what I want the sort of amount to be. Next season's going to be excellent, though.
I was wondering about that because it's like, are they trying to gain ground that they lost because of all this pandemic shit? In terms of like shows and output,
some shows have been delayed, but other than that, I don't know. There's just some things that are that are just coming out next season that haven't. I don't know. Next season's going to be really good.
I already know there's a few shows that I'm really looking forward to next season.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually even looked at the chart yet.
No.
I haven't even really taken a good look at the chart. I know there's a couple shows coming out that I know are at least worth checking out for me.
I'm just kind of doing a cursory look at it right now.
Like, I know the bottom tier character Tomozaki anime is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I think Redo of a Healer is coming out.
That one's going to be interesting.
Oh, is that the really controversial?
Yes. Yep. We also have another non Biori coming out.
Yeah,
I noticed that. I still need to watch season 2 of that. I really like the first one. The whole approach and the whole sort of scenery porn quality to it.
Yes, but I love the fact that it's like both that getting a new season and another laid back camp.
Like yeah.
Double comfy, and then not one but two Cells at Work anime.
Oh yeah.
Let's not forget more Strike Witches.
Yeah.
A lot of anime. What was it?
They're short, but
Okay,
a lot of
winter 2021 is going to be a strong season.
Yeah,
it's looking like it'll be interesting, to be sure. There's more. There's some interesting movie stuff coming out. More spaceship. Space Battleship Yamato. Sorry.
Yeah.
Some Sailor Moon movies. All kinds of stuff that's just kind of like, huh. Then of course there's probably the one that everybody's at least curious about, which is of course the new Evangelion movie.
Finally.
Yeah. Also, is Hathaway's Flesh there? Let me see.
No,
I don't see it on the list though. Maybe that one got delayed. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of idol anime on this list.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just kind of even just eyeballing it, that seems to be one of the big draws here.
And I want to see this just for the title alone because it's so like it doesn't explain anything. Wonder Egg Priority.
Yeah, by Cloverworks, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like nothing here.
Even the fucking trailer video is unavailable.
Yeah, yeah.
This anime is a
I've seen the
complete
trailer,
enigma.
but it doesn't explain anything. So,
maybe you're just supposed to fill it in, with your imagination. I don't know. There's this one that's on here that would have been funnier with the joke I was going to make when I first started, which is the Hidden Dungeon. To which I was going to say, is Olmec there? Olmec, Hidden Temple, Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Right.
Idiot kids that can't put the monkey together.
What's the controversial
temple
one
guards
called again?
that get what?
What's the controversial one called again?
Redo of the Healer.
Okay.
I'm. His name is probably different in Japanese. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah. It's that one's going to be peculiar on a couple levels. Like, put it this way: if people got mad about Goblin Slayer and stuff like this, this will be much worse.
Yeah, people are already calling it the new Shield hero.
Yeah, I would say this is considerably nastier than that.
Okay, you're looking at Kaifuku Juice. The one that starts with Kaifuku. I'm not even gonna fucking try to pronounce this.
Jutsushi no Harinashi.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, T and K. Yeah,
you're doing a lot better than I am right now. Right now, I'm trying to look for a drop in for my dumbass. Yeah, you guessed right.
Yeah, I was gonna make the sound if it didn't. I was gonna make the sound if it didn't come through.
Yeah.
Boy, I was just gonna be like.
Boom, boom, boom. Is there like any other sound out there that just exudes fail more than that?
The fucking the whole thing is like it's the tuba.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Because it's just like, wow.
It's like the tuba is just a fucking goofy instrument. like you associate it with like fat people walking around. Like it's the instrument used for goofy shit all the time.
It's like some sort of fucking horse neigh or some shit. Anyway.
Fucking trombone with a mute in it.
Yeah, exactly. Put some treble in it.
Yeah,
that's my word.
In the chat. Yeah, no, Maid Dragon. We're not talking about Maid Dragon season 2 because that's not on the list.
Is Maid Dragon season? When is that?
No, it's not. They have no date for that right now.
Maybe that was supposed to come out.
No, I would have.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see it on the list. Like you said.
Scheduled. Yeah. So we know it's probably coming out in 2021, but don't know exactly when.
So it probably got pushed back.
Burgermeister says on a bit of a side. That's that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It's not on the list of the winter season.
Not specifically on winter. We just don't know.
But Burgermaster was talking about watching Tokyo Move Mew Mew. I do remember watching the Fox Kids version of that.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Yeah,
everything about that makes me want to throw up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, they called it Mew Mew Power.
Yeah,
that doesn't help.
Yeah. That was that weird period where they were just trying really hard to put a lot of anime in kid time slots.
Yeah, and just again, we ended up with a lot of head scratching, really moments.
Yeah, just weird. Like, well. Oddly enough, we'll go into our topic.
You're not wrong.
That's somewhat foreshadowing because that actually does play in well to what we're actually going to be talking about.
Because as weird as the 80s and 90s stuff is, I think the peak was like in the 2000s with like just.
And then you just ended up with stuff like Card Captors, where they tried to market it toward boys, and it just really didn't work.
Yeah, or just like. Well, sometimes some weird localization. All right, I guess we should go into the topic now.
Well, hang on, because we have news. I'm not going to do the drop in because it's real short, and we already know. Because the news is I was right.
Oh, okay.
Let me grab the article.
News.
There it is. There you are. You know how I've been saying for years that Crunchyroll is not going to survive as an independent entity, and I've been saying for the past like half a year that Crunchyroll is going to get sold off and probably going to get sold off to Sony. Well, it happened. It's been confirmed by both parties. Like we're hearing it from both horses' mouths now, both lame ass horses' mouths now, that Crunchyroll is being acquired by Funimation. Realistically, Crunchyroll is being acquired by Sony, and price tag of $1.175 billion, which again,
that's gonna be a net loss.
Well, if you follow Otaku Entrepreneur, you know that guarantee you the reason that Sony's willing to spend that much on Crunchyroll isn't because they think Crunchyroll is actually worth that much as a company, but
monopolizing it.
Exactly, they want to have as much control over the Western anime market as possible.
Oh, we got an interesting thing in the thing. 4Kids actually got the Precure license at one time.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah. Of course, the people who actually ended up getting it here aren't really helping either.
Yeah.
With changing the name of it and everything else. But again, we'll come back to that. We should point out that this episode is sponsored by Motherfucking Ranch.
Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce.
It is good. I mean, I don't think it's not like I could knock him for any of that.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
I'm getting flashbacks to I don't know if any of you guys remember this. They did that was it Kenny Rogers thing on Mad TV.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
Well, it was a guy pretending to be Kenny Rogers, and he would always have to do his weird restaurant.
You know what you're talking about right now.
Alright, I'll
I haven't watched Mad TV for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
So
well, it's not like it's on anymore. I'm talking about. Never mind.
So over the past few weeks, there have been realistically, it's like 2 Twitter threads, is what really sparked this whole thing back up. And what we're talking about is the relationship between localization, accessibility, and the idea of the mainstreaming of anime. So I didn't have any either of these Twitter threads pulled up beforehand. That was my fault. But the first one that really came up was, I believe it was one of the translators for the new Higurashi anime, trying to explain the reasoning for translating Nini as, was it Big Brother with 2 D's?
Sorry. There's just something funny about that.
Yeah, so the idea in the translator went on this like 30-something tweet long thread on why, trying to explain that particular decision.
Yeah, and and the weird thing is anybody that was like pointing something out basically got clapped at pretty hard.
Yeah, well, so like the first idea, it, like there were two conflicting ideas. The first idea is that translation is a like it's something you have to figure out, and it's something you have to like it's something you end up having to like mull over, and it's not an exact science. There's a lot of leeway there.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the other idea is that the way that person translated it was objectively better, and there's no arguing with that.
Yeah, it's very very strange. There's this sort of tug of war going on right now between people who think there should be literal translations versus the spirit of what they're trying to say.
Mm.
And in all honesty, I'll just put in my 2 cents on this. I actually fall in the latter here because there are no one-to-one translations with some things. They're just not. Even, I mean, especially when you filter it through a cultural context.
Exactly.
So like just saying something and putting it here, it's like this is what they said, but that doesn't really work if what you say isn't understood the same way if you say it that way here.
Yeah.
Like addressing somebody as being higher on the totem pole than you are here is not the same as doing it there.
Exactly.
For example, I mean that's one of the complaints you hear about people dropping the honorifics and things like that because they're actually information. I mean, I'm not going to get into that part of it because I think that's somewhat more nitpicking. But it does sort of play into that idea, though, that there's some things that just don't translate one-to-one here. And I'm sure it's the other way around, too. I mean, that's true with any language.
So this
especially one that's not in the same language family.
There's an article, and if I'm not mistaken, the site is still down. It was on Toonami Digital Arsenal, and it was about translation. And I don't remember who this quote is from, but it had a quote in there. It said, "No work was ever meant to be translated. Otherwise, it would have been made in that language in the first place."
There's some truth to that.
Yeah, that sounds a little odd.
I mean, I understand what they're saying.
But if you think about it, if you're creating a work in Japanese, and it's your full intention for it to be translated into English, as a creator of works, then what you're best served doing, if you want to preserve the intent of your work in both languages, is to do that translation yourself. You have to be fluent in both languages and be able to do that translation yourself.
Right.
But if you have a work that's made in one language and you're farming out the translation to someone else to do, then they're working off of trying to interpret not only the language but what you mean. It not just the language but the context and all that when they translate that work into another language. And the work wasn't meant to do that. Because again, if the work was meant to be in both Japanese and in English, it would have been created in both Japanese and English. Or at the very least, the creator would have had an established English script, even if the work is Japanese original language.
In vast majority of anime, I would say 99% of it is not really made in that way. It's pitched as a localized thing. It's not pitched like, oh, we've got to make sure this is understandable by them over there. That's usually somebody else's job.
Right. They farm it out to a different company. So, and on a business level, partially so they don't have to they don't have to pay someone to do that translation, or they don't have to spend any extra time than they need to doing the translation for something that they're going to farm out to another company for distribution anyway.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, the way I look at it is sort of like this. What you need to do, just again, my 2 cents, is obviously you translate it into its raw data first. You know, what they said, basically, straight up. And then what you kind of have to do, and this is where it's not a science. You have to sort of put that in context where it makes sense over here. Now that doesn't mean adding stupid fucking little jokes about Gamergate or whatever. That's not obviously what I'm talking about. But I mean, obviously there are certain things that do not roll off the tongue.
Or changing the characters' ages in the thing because you know
again, that has nothing to do with anything other than moral pandering. Not really talking about that. More along the lines of how to word this.
We're trying to figure out what exactly is being said, and then present it
context,
in a way,
understandable context.
Yeah, trying to figure out the context and the content, and rearrange it in a way that will be understandable to English-speaking audiences.
And like I said, let's take a very Japanese phrase that you don't really hear in English other than either in a mocking tone or just we have a different way of saying this, which is it can't be helped.
Right.
That does not roll off the tongue in English all that well. It's a straight translation. It can't be helped. That sounds awkward. People here don't say that. In fact, most of the time you'll hear people trying to say that sentiment and like saying it is what it is.
Right.
Or if they're fancy, they might say "c'est la vie."
Right.
Which is the French version, which that's life.
Yeah, and the meaning is roughly the same.
In all of all those phrases, it's just that one of them does not sound natural in English. If you translate it directly like that, it just doesn't roll off the tongue right. It sounds stilted and awkward. People don't speak like that here. Mostly. I'm sure there are some, but
I've found myself saying it can't be helped on more than one occasion, but that might be just because I'm a weeb.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much of that though is because of your interest and you're saying it sort of tandem with that idea?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an interesting way to speak, and I like to speak in a way that's interesting to me.
Right. But the general population doesn't say that.
Exactly.
And this is who this is aimed at. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not necessarily aimed at the general population, but
that gets to the mainstreaming argument, which we can talk about later because we're still talking about translation and localization.
Right. Oh, you mean like idiots who say it's mainstream because things were on TV?
Oh, please believe I've got words.
That's one of the dumbest fucking things I've. It's like, wow, way to not understand how things actually work. But anyway, that's an inside thing. You'll hear more about that later, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back onto what we were talking about. One of the things I found interesting, and this is something you dug up a while back, Anubis, you were pointing out how we were basically lied to with the whole ghost stories thing.
Yeah, yeah, and to be 100% transparent, this is not something I dug up. It's something I reported on, but it's not something that
my
I
mistake.
dug up myself.
I thought you dug it up. So
yeah, it was someone else on Twitter dug it up. But so here's what happened with ghost stories. The common narrative is that the people who held the rights to ghost stories in Japan basically told ADV to do whatever with it. And the reason for that, the reason we're told for that is because Ghost Stories was an anime that didn't really do well in Japan, wasn't really a big deal. So the rights holder just said, yeah, you know what, it's a throwaway. Do whatever you want with it. We don't care. Turns out the data doesn't support that at all. Ghost Stories has seen multiple reruns on TV. It's been in the same top 10 category as stuff like One Piece. So some of the most popular anime ever. It's had several re-releases on disc media, which isn't going to happen for a flop. Like, you're not going to see, I doubt you're going to see like Flowers of Evil re-release on disc media, 0,000 Club Anime re-release on disc media,
Battle Skipper, some shit like that.
Exactly.
What was the reason for saying that to do whatever you want?
So,
because they already did that.
Well, here's the thing. So you take a children's anime from Japan that's based heavily in Japanese folklore, all sorts of very Japanese occult myths, very, very cultural stuff that you're not necessarily going to understand unless you already have an interest in it. And so your ADV, you're left with this, you got this license you bought, you're sitting in your lap.
When ADV was like Funimation now, basically.
Well, yeah, on some level. So you're left with this anime in your lap. You don't know how you're going to market this thing. So it's a regular ass kids anime based on all sorts of stuff that people in America are not going to understand. So
right. So how do you pitch that?
How do you pitch that? And the idea Stephen Foster came up with is Stephen Foster and his crew are gonna do. Hey, let's just riff on it.
Damn it, Steve.
Yeah, let's just all riff on the whole thing, and that's what ended up happening. And we ended up getting like a bridge series of Ghost Stories as the official English dub. And what happened with that is it was actually pretty wildly successful. And that's the real problem that I see with it, is because if you want to trace back a lot of the paradigms we're talking about with regard to specifically Funimation and what they've been doing in their dubs, you trace it back to two things. And these are the two things that basically gave them permission to do this. It was 4Kids, in all of what they did back in the day. And it was also Ghost Stories, because Ghost Stories did that and was wildly successful at it.
Interesting thing from the chat here. There was supposedly a more accurate Ghost Stories dub exclusive to Southeast Asia.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Oh yeah,
because
of course, because you can market that there.
You can market that there, and
people will know what they're referring to.
Like, you can market, and the people there, like, guarantee you, the people there buying Ghost Stories care about the actual story, like the actual storylines I keep forgetting the Japanese title, but the actual stories in that show, as opposed to Stephen Foster and the gang.
I wish we had the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme to play right now. Every time we mention their name, I don't know, just seems like it'd be appropriate somehow.
Yeah. In the RFC is mentioned in Samurai Pizza Cats, which they did something very similar with, but that one is because they lost the script. Allegedly, they had lost the script.
Mm-hmm.
But so here's the thing, and sort of jumping off of that is, now we are in this paradigm where it's not necessarily about getting something the most accurate representation of what's being said just translated into English. Now there's sort of a marketing angle going into it, and that gets into the accessibility part of it. Where here's my issue. And part of the thing coming up here is people are making the argument that stuff like honorifics, stuff like a word like kotatsu, things that don't necessarily have one-to-one translations in
The Sentai
English.
just has pop-up note, like,
Well, that's how we used to do it.
Right, but then we got Kikaku means plan kind of shit going on.
And, yeah, I was thinking
and people fucking got goofy about it.
No, first I was actually thinking of Kotatsu, the table, the heating table.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean, Kikaku.
Yeah, but we had people started making an argument that this is an accessibility issue, that looking at if someone comes up against the word like an honorific or the word senpai or something, a Japanese concept that they're not familiar with, all of a sudden it's an accessibility issue. People aren't going to be able to get into anime now, which confuses me because
whoever came across a term they didn't understand in anime and it just completely destroyed their ability to be a fan.
Well, it's anime has only gotten more accessible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and with the internet, like you can't take 2 seconds to look up an idea that might be foreign to you, coming from a foreign country. Really?
Well, it's like Jesus. We used to.
That's some lazy ass shit right there.
I say we like I was in this paradigm, but it used to be like VHS, like 2-episode VHS, 4-episode DVDs, or you have to catch the shit on TV on Toonami or Adult Swim, or you used to have to before Crunchyroll took over the industry, you used to have to go to like weird esoteric streaming sites, or you used to have to know how to torrent or use IRC to transfer files. Now
calling the file from a Betamax.
Yes. But it's like now it's like, damn, fucking
You know what's weird about that? Is they're actually almost doing something like that with the new Project Echo. Like they're going to actually do that. Did you read about that?
Yeah, I did read a little bit about that.
It sounds really roundabout, but it makes sense if you're paying attention.
But now I've got like 5, 6, 7 devices in this room that can play anime if I want to. Play anime on demand if I want to. Translated. I don't need no fucking... It's not raw. It's out on the same day as it comes out in Japan. Anime... And we're trying to make the argument that someone sees the word san and they're like, whoa, shit, anime is not for me anymore. Maybe anime is not for you if that's the case. But it's like anime.
Yeah, I mean,
anime has never been more accessible.
There are literally apps now for anime on your phone.
Yeah, you've got everyone on the planet walks around with
any easier.
Everyone on the planet walks around with a plastic rectangle in their pocket that they can get anime on whenever they want.
Yeah, it's now compare that to back in the day when you watched 5-second clips of really badly pixelated material on Real Player. Or QuickTime.
I love how we were both on the same wavelength with that.
Windows Movie,
or even worse, QuickTime.
Seriously,
yeah.
But it's like, I'm like fucking people.
Dude, does anybody remember digging up old DBZ or Sailor Moon clips in their original form that was censored like that? And you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go outside, I'm gonna mow the lawn, and by the time I'm done, this 5-minute clip will be done downloading.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, people are and they're treating it like it's a barrier to entry, like it's a legitimate barrier to entry.
It's such a yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's such
a fucking hurdle. It's like fucking
oh no, I might have to look something up for 2 seconds that I'll find on the first fucking search.
And it's like fuck damn. How did anyone ever get into anime if that's the case?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's be real here. Anime got bigger after they started treating it more like less like the 4Kids and stuff like that. Not before.
Yep.
Yeah, see,
100%
see, I looked up after seeing it in K-On! The one where Yui was told don't eat the watermelon if you eat the after you eat the tempura, and then she did it anyway. And apparently that's a thing in like Japanese folk medicine. Like, don't eat, watermelon after eating like that.
Don't take a dip in the pool after you eat until like an hour later, or you get stomach cramps. That's bullshit, by the way.
Or
that's one of those things. Like, it's one of those old wives' tales, like how they used to say, "Don't pop your knuckles or you'll get arthritis."
Yeah. Or the thing about the leak in the butt if you have a fever. Apparently that's like another folk
leak in the butt, man.
Yeah.
It's like, also, if
punctured by the East Side Javelins.
If we're talking about accessibility, then unless we're gonna go all the way and try and remove all use of honorifics from Japanese society and culture, are we just creating a false context?
I think so, yeah. A little bit.
We might as well take take an anime that's set in Tokyo and pretend it's like Chicago.
And might as well, insert Gunsmith Cats jokes.
Yeah, exactly. But we might as well, because we're willing to remove important cultural elements of.
They're not eating udon. They're fucking having a deep dish from.
Yeah,
these donuts are delicious.
Exactly, we go right back to jelly donuts. We might as well. Because we're willing to take important cultural elements.
I knew they weren't jelly donuts even then. I was like, okay, that's
It's like, that doesn't look like any jelly donut anyone's ever seen. But here's the thing.
Besides, Homer Simpson's not there, so we know it's not a donut.
If we're willing to make that change, if we're willing to pretend that no Japanese person ever says san, ever calls someone who's in a position above them their senpai, then we might as well. What's stopping us? What is the logical thing stopping us from setting an anime that's set in Tokyo in Chi-Town?
So basically, what they wanted to do with the Akira live action movie.
Oh, sure, right. Yeah.
If we're coming from an accessibility standpoint, then sure, why not? There's no argument to not do it. So yeah, let's do it. But
he's not addressing a superior. He just says, "Hey, asshole."
Nobody's gonna agree with that, because that goes back to the 4Kids paradigm that nobody likes. But what people don't understand
is a great one
that
everybody will remember.
What everyone doesn't understand is that the 4Kids paradigm is just an extension of this same paradigm where we have to make something quote unquote accessible. I hate that word, by the way, accessible, because you're like it's
making it sound like you can't watch this stuff without fucking you can't watch this stuff without someone holding your hand.
Well, it's like, accessibility, like whenever you hear accessibility being talked about in gaming, it's never about like things like colorblind modes. No,
it's like the game's too hard.
Yeah, the game's really hard, and I need to be able to like fly through
play another fucking game.
Because I'm a game reviewer, and I don't want to spend 18 hours playing through this game.
You should have picked a different fucking
vocation. A different career path. But that's the thing, is accessibility is never about helping people who don't have the ability to.
It's not like giving people Braille.
Yeah, it's not.
It's always fucking some nonsensical pussyfooting around. Like, oh, we need to. What you mean? You want to mainstream it to where Joe Q public doesn't have to learn anything about what they're actually looking at.
And my issue is what's the rationale? Like, what's their play? Why?
because they probably have
get more money from you.
Yeah, they probably think they have an infinite growth model that they can.
Anyone
that's
who
not
thinks
going
that
to
way is an
work with
idiot.
something like this.
I like that
Especially,
term, by
especially
the way,
like
that used.
like translators, because this isn't even like big companies. These are translators that are like holding fast to these perspectives on translating anime and Japanese media. It's like individual translators saying, no, we can't have there's no good reason for anything to leave senpai to just leave the word senpai there. It has to be translated.
Or tsundere or whatever.
Exactly. There's no good reason for it. The default should always be 100% English. And it is an individual holding fast to this. So I'm wondering, why? Why
Insert jokes here about how, let this white person show you how it's done.
Yeah.
What was that one that translated to fragile male ego?
That was tsundere.
Oh, tsundere.
Yeah, it was. Which, yeah. Okay, yeah, here's another good reference here. Might as well do the Sailor Moon thing where we turned a lesbian couple into cousins. You'd get crucified if you did it now.
Why not? Why not do it? We're throwing out every other element of context in the anime. Why not do it?
Yeah. I'll make this my finish up.
In the spirit of accessibility, why not? Sure, let's go ahead. Fucking
the hill I will die on is that thing in Hatsukoi Limited where they changed the character that was 14 to 16, even though it didn't make any sense because everywhere else it was. But because it was a character
one
that was
dipshit that did that.
What?
You ever think it was just one dipshit who did that? And
yeah, but I'm just saying it was like
because you harp on that an awful lot.
I know, but it's such a stickling point for me that it's like it doesn't make sense.
We get it. If they're 2 years older, they're no longer in the field.
That's really not it. It's just.
Oh gosh, yeah, because you don't want to upset the quilt bag community. Yeah, because they're down here watching fucking Bleach and whatnot.
Quilt bag? Never heard that term.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about old ladies.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, maybe you should have said crochet.
Yeah. Okay.
Needlepoint community.
Okay, I like that.
Well, yeah. What's funny about that, and I don't want to get into a tangent here, is actually they're being harassed now too, but for something else entirely. Jesus. Because they're mostly white people.
Of course.
Yeah, it's like it's not an inclusive community. How the fuck is anybody preventing you from getting, threading equipment and sitting down and fucking doing stuff?
That's like when
that
people
doesn't make
talk
any
about.
Sense.
Well, it's like when people talk about how hard it is to be a person of color in the anime community, and it's like you're acting like when I step up in the video
because it's
store,
not like it's created by Japanese people or anything.
Well, it's like, they act like when I step up in the video store, like the clerk
Japanese
sees me and they press a button under the counter that dispatches a linebacker from the Denver Broncos to try and block me from getting to the anime booth, the anime store.
Oh, okay. A correction in the chat here. Wasn't what I meant. I meant the woke LGBT people on sites like Twitter. Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. The alphabet people are not exactly the most reasonable sometimes.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and this gets into the mainstreaming issue, because now people are making this weird, assertion now that anime is mainstream. Anime isn't a niche anymore. And
because I see it on all the time in Japanese.
Well, it's like
right after Dateline.
Ooh, anime isn't a niche anymore.
Or before Associated Press.
It really convenient that this paradigm, this anime isn't a niche anymore thing, is coming out when people are trying to argue that the the translation quality of these translators' work isn't up to snuff. It's not really appealing to fans of anime over here. It's not really serving its purpose. All of a sudden now it's, oh well, the translations aren't for you. They're not. It's not just your thing anymore. Anime. It's just it's not a niche anymore. We need to start appealing to other people now.
It's
which
not
somehow
really
excuses
what the gall in that is that it's not really your product to make that decision for one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you didn't make this shit. What are you talking about? We need to make it like, no, your job is to be the invisible hand that guides it from point A to point B. Or point C, or however you want to slice it. You're not really as important as you think you are. You are literally the cog. Like, they can swap you out for somebody who's willing to do a better job. And it really doesn't do shit.
Yeah, their job is to be...
You're not like a key animator or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they didn't make the shit.
That's what I'm saying. That's where the gall comes in. It's like, you didn't even make this thing you're trying to promote. So where do you get off saying that we need to promote it in a way that, you know, it's aimed at people that really aren't even interested? I mean, I don't understand that. You're the businessman. Maybe you should. Maybe you have an idea.
These people are not business people.
No, they're not. They're fucking. They're rank and file translators who work at major anime companies.
Yeah, that otherwise would be a BuzzFeed writer.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I actually feel dirty saying that. A blogger.
Yeah. But like, first things first. Here, really good point from the IRC. It's not like these shows aren't even mainstream in their home country. A lot of these are like late night anime on at like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, your Kiss X Sis and stuff like that. Yeah, that's not on like after Friends or whatever.
Well, that's like ATX.
Well, that's my point.
Exactly.
That's like their Cinemax or Stars or Showtime kind of equivalency there. It's a satellite station, if I'm not correct. If I'm right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these shows aren't even mainstream there. So, like, if you think, like, for some reason that, I don't know, let's think of something raunchy here. Help me out here, guys. I'm derping out here.
Valkyrie Drive.
Yeah, I was about to say that one.
Okay, yeah, that one works. That's not exactly coming on right after the local news and before shows about pet care.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny because I used to think my thing was when I was like a young teen, I thought stuff like the Guyver OVAs, which it's funny.
Or like on after school or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's like, this is what Japanese people watch.
Yeah, after they come
Guyver. Oh, look at all that gore.
From a day toiling away on unreasonable hours at your job, you just kind of settle in to watch brains explode.
Yeah,
and tits and ass shake around. Yeah, I mean, on some level, you can think kind of like, well, yeah, that would still make sense on some level, but
I mean, I know stuff like the Fist of North Star TV was like considered a kids anime.
I mean, that's another thing that people don't really seem to kind of grasp is a lot of the shows around here that people think are so adult and stuff really aren't. They're or weren't really portrayed that way. Like,
oh god, no.
Like Go Lion's a good example. It's like the original version of that
show.
Yeah, it was, but it's still like rated 16 up or whatever.
Yeah. I remember even though I never watched the full thing, but I remember you guys remember this one. New Type had those DVD samplers.
Yep.
There's a couple of shows that I owe those to that I checked out.
Likewise.
There's same. There was there was the first episode of Saint Seiya,
Okay,
which is a kids anime. But in the first episode, you see someone's ear get severed.
Yeah, I mean,
kids show.
Right. I mean, there are certain elements there that just don't really, well, cross over, lost in translation, if you will.
Damn, it's almost as though when you bring over a show from a different, like an entirely different culture, there you might get some stuff that you can't exactly like translate one to one over, not in the same context.
Yeah, actually, and again, oh, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Brain fart.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's the thing with the here's the idea that here's what I think about the whole mainstream thing. I think the reason that translators especially say that, and the reason that people who hold fast to these same perspectives that these translators have say that, is purely because they don't like the kinds of people who tend to call for more culturally translations that have a lot more respect for the cultural origin.
Which is hilarious. Which is hilarious because the same people that scream about this usually have fucking pronouns in their bio.
Well, to be more clear, the people who tend to not like when translations disregard or do away with the like cultural elements that are present and important by their presence, because if they weren't present, like if they weren't important, they wouldn't be present. So here's an observation that I had while I was looking into these issues. So if you watch Strike Witches in the Japanese, you will notice that when addressing when a character from not Japan addresses a character from Japan, as in the Strike Witches equivalent of Japan.
Mm-hmm. Fuso.
Yes. When a character outside of Fuso addresses a character from Fuso, outside of rank, they will use the honorific. When a character from Fuso refers to addresses a character addresses a character from Fuso or not from Fuso, outside of rank, they will use an honorific. The character from not Fuso addresses another character from not Fuso, outside of rank, no honorific.
Yeah. So that's a little touch that you have to be paying attention probably to really even notice. But it is.
You would think a translator would, catch on to that and kind of understand that, maybe they did this on purpose. Maybe there's a reason they did this. And naturally, if you're a person who professionally translates from Japanese to English, you would understand some elements of the Japanese culture. You would understand how honorifics are used and why they're used. You would understand that if you see that, hear that in Strike Witches, they did it on purpose for a reason.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You even see this in real life. You will hear like gaming news outlets. You hear this a lot in spoken English. I remember hearing it a lot on G4, as a matter of fact.
Of all things.
Where they will, if they're talking about say a prominent Japanese developer, they will use the honorific.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
One sec.
So they're talking about Shigeru Miyamoto. It's Miyamoto-san.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to be respectful of their culture. You're trying to be respectful of them as people. So it would behoove you to, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When referring to a Roman, you refer to them as a Roman. You refer to them as they would be referred to by someone who respects them from their own culture. And this is something that's done on purpose. I guarantee you. you'll start outside of very Japanese cultural context. Like if you find me a show that's super not Japanese, where they're still using honorifics, and I'll show you where they weren't paying attention. A show where all the characters are Americans. They're not in Japan. They're not like the show culturally isn't Japanese, but when they do that, you're not going to hear like Japanese cultural artifacts they're going to speak in Japanese, but they will deliberately not have Japanese cultural artifacts in their speech. I wonder why. I wonder if they did that on purpose. And so just might
be important, you never know.
And so if you're a professional translator from Japanese to English, I would wonder why you wouldn't notice that and why you wouldn't say, maybe that's important that they did that. Maybe they're, and realistically, you don't even need to notice that to understand it. You would understand it's important by the nature of the fact that you understand Japanese culture. And it's important to preserve the cultural context, because otherwise you don't have a full understanding of what's going on. This is a common trope in like twin tail tsundere anime, where the main character will use the wrong honorific when referring to the twin tail tsundere girl, and she will demand to be called Sama. And you can't fucking do that if you don't have honorifics in your translation.
Or if you even changed it, it wouldn't make as much sense.
It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be clear. It wouldn't have the same meaning. It wouldn't have anywhere near the same meaning.
I'm sorry.
Welcome back. It wouldn't. You can't. Or here's another one. You have it's the romance anime, and you've got the couple, and it's like episode 9, and they're getting real deep in the relationship, and now they're referring to each other without honorifics. First name, no honorific. How the fuck do you do that without including honorifics in it?
Yeah, I mean, they're and again, I guarantee you'll have somebody try to make an excuse of why that's not necessary, and they're wrong.
Yeah,
by the way,
bad excuse. That's very culturally important. If you understand, again, I'm not a professional Japanese to English translator, but I still understand that element of the culture. And it's important. You can't just declare it negligible because you think it's negligible. Realistically, doesn't it actually make their job kind of easier because they don't have to translate? They don't have to figure out a way to.
But we gotta lie and remove the problematic elements of this.
That's not even what they're doing.
Yeah, that's really not even what they're doing.
It's arguably more laziness than that.
I can't even say it's laziness.
I know. Yeah,
this person went in on like a 33 tweet long thread to explain why they translated Nini as Big Brother. Like, damn. Just leave Nini if you're going to do that. Just leave it. Nobody's going to complain. Yeah. The number of people who complain about that is 0.
Anybody as opposed to certainly people who like this stuff.
Hey, fuck. Who's out here watching Higurashi and is going to be really, really bent out of shape that Nini was left as untranslated? It's that, and fuck, maybe this is just a personal thing, but Big Brother, really, with 2 Ds?
Yeah.
Listen, so back in the day when I was watching like Anime Network on demand and shit, I watched this anime you two might be familiar with called Sister Princess.
I was just thinking that because of all the ways they translate Big Brother.
Oh, you know where I'm going now. So
Right,
here's the
right.
here's the one of the big main conceits of Sister Princess is this homeboy ends up on an island, and he ends up with like, what was it, 12 little sisters?
Something like 12 or 14.
And
yeah.
every single one of them has a different way of referring to him as Big Brother.
Yeah.
And so like let me look at some of these examples, because the whole issue is it's 12, by the way. So like,
Okay. I gotta watch that show.
Niya or Anikun, Anigimi-sama, and when I watched it, I watched the dub. So they actually translated all these, not 1-to-1, but okay. So one girl calls him mon frère, French for my brother. One of
I already know which girl you're talking about.
One of them, yeah, exactly.
The Chunibo looking one, but it isn't. It's just
one of them calls him. One of them calls him brother.
Sorry.
One calls him big brother, big bro,
or something,
and bro. And I'm saying, listen, if you want the closest thing to Nini, bro is where it's at, and there's a precedent for it, because Sister Princess did it. You know, it's perfectly acceptable then. But we gotta make homegirl in Higurashi sound like fucking Hulk Hogan every time she speaks about her fucking brother. Brother.
No.
But here's the issue: is now with, because the whole argument there is, well, now Higurashi is getting more popular. More people are finding out what Higurashi is. So now we have to do all this stuff to make sure that people are able to watch the new Higurashi anime, because they're into Higurashi now. And if they see a single Japanese word, they're gonna freak the fuck out. Apparently.
Yeah, none of this really makes sense. I mean, even if you drill it down and follow the logic of the people that are saying this stuff, it doesn't make fucking sense.
There are maybe 5 people on this entire planet for whom Higurashi is their first anime. And all 5 of them probably have some interest in the Japanese context by virtue of the fact that they're watching fucking Higurashi. It's not the most mainstream anime. Let's be very real. You've probably watched some kind of Dragon Ball or Sailor Moon,
but it is known.
Or it's known, certainly, but guarantee you 99.99% of people who are watching Higurashi at all have watched other anime before Higurashi. It's not a first. This isn't first anime material. It's not first anime material. So that's part of where I start to really get down on this accessibility paradigm, because it's not. We don't have to make all this accessible. Some of it is just not going to be accessible. Opate is not going to be accessible. Strike Witches is not going to be accessible. But so some of this shit just it's too different from what people are used to, and that's okay. That's actually its selling point. We don't want shit to be the same, or as the same shit as what other stuff we're getting from comic books or something. We actually like that it's different.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a certain. I don't know if it's just like an extension of that whole everybody must like everything kind of thing.
Yeah.
That there's these people trying to push, which of course is impossible and doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's a very, at least to me, seems like a very Western media thing where it's like, try to make this one thing as mainstream as and accessible, which is very much like the Disney model, which is why this modern Disney stuff has like no appeal to me.
Well, it's like it's basically the modern like large media company model that part of it is because
it's throw the biggest net to grab as many people as possible.
Yeah, part of it is because they spend so much goddamn money on some of these productions,
these AAA titles that
exactly
come out,
that they have to make them appeal to as many people as possible.
Just to recoup the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's if you want to talk about anime's strength, and realistically Japanese media in general, but in this context anime, if you want to talk about anime's strength, it's the fact that it doesn't need to do that. It's the fact that when it's time to make an anime, it's a bunch of companies that come together and pool their resources to distribute all the risk. So
right,
yeah,
so
if it and then they can be able to wait a year or more years maybe to actually break even, and then most anime manages to do that. So the thing that keeps anime creative is the fact that it has such a distributed risk factor, and the fact that if a show flops, you're not going to be, one company isn't going to be out several $1 million. But when part of the issue, and this gets into like a bigger company's perspective on the Western side, part of the issue is that Western publishers, people like Funimation, people like Crunchyroll, especially those two, are trying to do something with anime that anime was fundamentally not designed to do, and that's sell the anime as a product. Anime isn't meant to be sold by itself.
Only during the OVA time frame.
The OVA time frame. But like, anime is primarily a massive fucking it's a massive advertisement for the source material, for the merchandise, for the
it's
soundtrack,
almost like
all that.
It's almost kind of like, hey, you like the manga, now you get to watch them in motion and in color.
Or realistically, hey, here's this new anime of this manga you might have heard of. Now we can get you to buy the manga. But that's the exact thing, is the anime as a business model works because there are so many revenue streams.
Right, but the thing is Americans in general, I can't say the West entirely, but specifically us, we are allergic to multimedia streams like that. Well, I mean, it's starting to get better now, but for a long, long time, that was a thing we just did not really work with.
Well, that's one element, but the other element, and that I would argue with the bigger element at work, is that you've got you'd have the bottom tier character Tomozaki light novel, and that's published by I think Yen Press. And then you're going to have the bottom tier Tomozaki anime, and that's going to be published by another company. And nowhere should those two meet. Like the revenue stream is not connected. It's broken up between, okay, what company has the light novel? Okay, what company has the anime? Okay, what company has the video game? All sorts of different companies trying to make money off of this one thing, where in Japan, all the companies are making money off of everything.
Right, and it's not divvied up in the same way.
And well, yeah, exactly, and that's the issue, is that when you get to a level at where say Funimation is at. You have to sell the anime as a product by itself, or realistically, you have to sell your subscription service to be able to get people, like, to entice people to watch the anime. But you don't have access to the same revenue streams, so you have to adopt a different business model to be able to do that. So like Right Stuff. I looked into pretty deep into the history of Right Stuff a couple weeks ago, and they managed to stay in the position they're in, not only because they of course put out good products, but because they've made themselves pivotal to the distribution of anime in the West, just in general. Like they've set it up, they've positioned themselves so, like, if you care about physical release anime, you are probably buying from Right Stuff at some point in time.
Yeah.
So they have more revenue streams than just selling anime, than just licensing and selling anime. Or they have more revenue streams than just licensing and publishing anime. They also sell anime for everyone, and they're the store for that. So that's how they can stay in the position they're in.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. I mean,
but the idea is you get a Funimation, you suddenly start to get the idea that, okay, we need to do something to make these shows appeal to more people. And at some point you get the idea that maybe the reason these shows aren't appealing to as many people as we like is because they're too foreign. So now we have to make it so they're less foreign. Not quite understanding that the appeal of these shows
is that they're foreign.
Exactly. The appeal of these shows is that they're foreign, and you're really only going to get a certain amount of people who are going to be into those shows.
Which again really is really not palpable with a lot of the business models that we have running around.
Not the infinite growth streaming business model.
Definitely not. So it is really strange in that way. That well, I guess it's not strange. It's just, I wouldn't say it's strange per se. I think it's just not going to work. I mean,
it's not sustainable.
No, not at all.
It's you're eroding away what makes anime unique and appealing to people who habitually spend a whole lot of money on anime.
Mm-hmm.
So I say all the time, don't try and argue with the people who spend hundreds of dollars on cute anime girl shit. You're not going to win that battle. But at the same time, don't alienate the people who spend hundreds of dollars on cute anime girl shit.
Because if they drop their money, that you've got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you really don't. I mean, you do not have a vacuum of these people that are dedicated enough to keep things going.
And don't do the whole consumer,
Well, you're in the wrong area if you're going to whine about capitalism and consumerism. If you're
seriously
talking about anime, I mean, it is a massive fucking merchandise machine.
It is business from start to finish, literally.
I mean, that's just comical.
But yeah, here's the thing. Anime has never been as accessible as it is now. We're seriously in it's a different paradigm than it was just 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was oh, yeah, man, Crunchyroll's really coming up, isn't it? Now they're getting they're getting bought by AT&T. They're getting bought by Sony. We got these major companies in the game now. Netflix is all up in the anime biz.
Being passed around like some sort of joint.
And it's like, and somehow we're still talking about accessibility. And that just tips to me like, okay, we're not arguing in good faith anymore.
No, I don't think so.
It's not like the anime is mainstream now thing. It's such a massive cop out because it's saying, okay, I don't need to explain my perspective or what I'm doing or the reasoning behind the reasoning behind this hill I'm dying on with regard to anime, because anime is mainstream now. You never need to prove that, by the way, because I can still like anime is mainstream, but if I try to go to talk to someone about Strike Witches or let me look at my shelf. Strike Witches. I probably can't talk to people about Amagami SS, like regular ass people too. By the way,
Divergence Eve.
Divergence Eve. That's on my shelf. Dominion Tank Police. I'd probably get some kind of weird looks for that. Genshiken. People like anime people know about Genshiken, but not a whole lot of people really know about Genshiken.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
And like that's not to say that anime hasn't made. Like,
you guys are gonna like this what I posted.
That's not to say that anime isn't like anime hasn't made progress in like the culture, like the general purpose culture, because anime on the big screen in theaters in the US fucking took off. Like was it after Your Name that the shit just skyrocketed? To the point where last year the Panda and I went and saw fucking Char's Counterattack in a real life movie theater.
Which I enjoyed doing. Which I very much enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, and so it's not that anime hasn't made progress, but we can't just fucking declare it mainstream use that as an excuse to do whatever we want with it.
Well, for one, it's not mainstream if you have to alter it to make it that way.
Facts.
Just realistically, if you have to alter it to appease everybody here, it's not mainstream, because that means you have to fucking wrangle it to even make it acceptable.
Yeah. It's a bad faith argument.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's no different than the one jackass who once we who was when called out about his behavior basically said, "Yeah, you're all just a bunch of loser virgins, yada yada yada," you know, that sort of shit. It's like it's hilarious how fast they go from supposedly mild-mannered to hostile. It's hilarious. It just strikes me as you guys probably don't remember this, but Six Flags used to run commercials about how, like, oh, this ride goes 0 to 60 in a second.
I remember those commercials.
Oh yeah, for roller coasters or any place like that, like Cedar Point or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so you know what I'm talking about, right? It reminds me of that, but it's like the way they swing. It's like, oh no, they're coming after me now. I got to go on the offensive. And I don't really see the need for that, for one.
Well, I kind of think that's a mask off sort of thing. Because what I see is that the basis is that they just don't like the kind of people who tend to really care about the Japanese context and understanding the culture through anime. They just they seem to really have a problem with those people.
And I also think in their heart of hearts, they don't really like Japanese culture either.
Probably not.
which does sort of beg the question why they're doing that on some level, because that's not exactly the first gig you'd probably want to get into. If you have a genuine
like
disdain for,
because they like Ghibli and
okay, well then they can work for Disney or whatever. But
they probably fucking can't, which is why
because they're
now.
Because they're not skilled enough, or they don't see them as probably skilled enough. It's like, oh no, we gotta relocate this person into like working on the trashy D grade shit.
Well, it's like at some point I just have to start thinking, well, okay, these people clearly don't have any respect for the media. They clearly don't have any respect for the fans. And
some of their things they've said just outright basically state that.
Yeah, and
without so much as saying it literally, but like reading between the lines, there's no other way to take it.
Exactly, and at a certain point, it becomes like, why stay here if you don't respect the people you're serving, if you don't respect the media you're working with, and if this line of work is getting you constant abuse on the internet, like by all means leave your post.
It's my job. It's my job.
Like, damn, find a new job.
I don't know. In any excuse me. In all fairness, I mean, they don't have the easiest job in the world. I wouldn't say.
Certainly not.
But
certainly
at the
not.
same,
I
at
I
the
have
same
a lot
time,
of respect.
it's like,
go ahead.
It's like a passion project almost. I don't understand how you could just clock in, do a half-assed job in this, and then whine about it. Because it's like, why would you even go into this line of work if you have that big of a hair up your ass about it? I mean, you know what I mean? It's not like people. It's not like fast food where oh, I'm doing it to pay the bills and so I don't starve. No, I mean,
well, so that's my thing. I have a lot of respect for translation people who try really hard to get it, to find the balance between, okay, what is technically correct and what is going to be acceptable for this product that I'm trying to make.
What is the spirit of what is trying to be said versus what is blatantly said, direct one-to-one, versus the spirit of what they said, and finding that happy balance between the two where it doesn't piss off people from either side of it.
Exactly. And make no mistake, I understand it's difficult. But it starts to become an issue when you get very arrogant people in these positions whose frame is
fuck y'all, I don't care.
Yeah. Whose frame is, I'm sorry, this is the best translation. Going on this 30-something...
If you disagree, I banged your mom.
Yeah, going on this 30-something tweet-long thread and say, oh, okay, yeah, this is the best translation. Big Brother is the objective best translation of Nini. It's the arrogance that's an issue. It's the refusal to listen to another argument. It is the refusal to respond it's the refusal to respond to detractors without responding in bad faith.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because let's be real here. At least 3/4 of the people that are complaining about this aren't coming from a place of I'm out to get you.
Exactly.
They're coming from a place of, hey, that's not really, like I said, it's it is pretty arrogant to do stuff like that over something that's not even yours.
Exactly, and it's like, so y'all remember when the thing with Sentai Filmworks happened in the Tolovru dub, where
refresh my memory.
There was a scene where the guy was talking about how he wants a girlfriend who will like cook and clean for him and stuff, and the little sister character in the Japanese says that's so old fashioned, but in the English says that's misogynistic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the person who wrote that line in the dub came out on Twitter and said, yeah, I understand people are upset at me, but there are, like, translation's not a one-to-one thing. There are issues that happen in translations that you need to make a decision, and that's what you saw was the result of that. And the issue I always had with that is explain the reasoning. Like, explain the methodology. Show your work.
Yeah, to borrow a thing they used to beat us over the head with in math.
Yeah, math test. Show your work. Because otherwise,
we're just going to assume you fucking cheated.
It just comes off as though you're arguing in bad faith.
Or you have no real rhyme or reason why you did it other than I just wanted to.
Exactly. It looks like you're trying to explain it away. And I mean, to this one translator's credit, we got a 33 long or whatever message Twitter thread about trying to explain away this Big Brother thing, and
which was quite frankly almost comical. And the funny thing is the longer they went on, the more agitated they clearly were getting.
That's the thing, is like yeah, okay, show your work certainly, but the longer your thread is trying to explain this away, the more I kind of think that your conclusion
there's something under the surface. There's more to the surface under the surface there. That's just
it's like and then you come to this conclusion that I'm sorry, this is the best translation. I don't think
no comments. Fuck y'all if you disagree.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, especially if you also earlier you're talking about how difficult a process this is.
Yeah, I mean, like when somebody says, in the comments, there's a world of difference between something is old-fashioned and something is misogynist. Of course there is, because when somebody says something's old-fashioned, I think of like family recipes. I think of like sort of outdated ways of doing things that we don't do anymore, like an abacus. You know, you just go to the calculator. That's not to say they're saying something's misogynistic is saying something is bad.
It's painting it in a different light.
Saying something is old-fashioned is a neutral idea. This is why it's bad. No pun intended.
Like, this is the thing is, and we don't have time to really get into this. We're coming up on the end of the show, but
they don't mean the same thing. They're not synonyms, and if you think they are, you're missing the point, because one of them has a negative connotation, one of them does not.
It's an issue with putting the show in a different context. And one thing that like the three of us have talked about elsewhere is that what Discotheque did with one of the Lupin the Third movies.
Yeah, we could go on a whole thing about that.
Yeah, that could be another show, but the issue is through the English publishing of it, you're trying to put it in a different context. You're trying to recontextualize it, and when you do that with, say, what Discotheque did with Lupin the Third, and say what Sentai did with Toloveru, you're recontextualizing it in a negative sense when previously it was not.
Yeah.
It was not negative.
Which,
it was something neutral.
I do have a bitch session I'm going to get in with this, because there is something about that bothers me a lot.
Maybe we should make that the next topic.
No. It's not going to go that long.
Go
ahead. My biggest problem is when they apologize for this sort of stuff in the way where they say it was wrong then and it's wrong now. Here's why that's bullshit. If it was wrong then, they wouldn't have done it. If it was culturally an issue at the time, they would not have done it. That's why that's really revisionistic to me.
Here's my thing, and this is all I'll say on it, and then we'll wrap up and end the show. Is like, it would have been appropriate for Discotek to put the same thing Sentai Filmworks puts on the beginning of every single one of their DVDs, their Blu-rays. Something like the actually have
content within does not reflect the viewpoints of company XYZ.
Something like that. I have it right here. The views expressed in this DVD do not necessarily represent the views of Sentai Filmworks and or its subsidiary and affiliated companies. Boom. There. You have absolved your company of any potential wrongdoing that they could have had by publishing this piece of media from the 80s or some shit that we think is problematic now.
Which, let's be real here, this is just them covering.
And then ass. What you don't need to do is speak for the work that you didn't make. But so to wrap up our topic, here's the thing. Anime has never been more accessible than it is now. And what we don't need to do is start making it something different than what it already is in order to make it more accessible. And that goes down to, as far as I'm concerned, that goes down to the cultural elements that are in the show as it exists. And for some reason, I'm noticing these cultural elements that professional Japanese to English translators seem to either be not noticing or straight up ignoring.
I mean, the worst thing that's annoying about that is people think you're nitpicking, and you're really not. Because it's like you're missing out, you're taking information away from something that's not made here.
At the end of the day, we need to understand that we are consuming a Japanese cultural artifact, and that the cultural elements present within this media is important to the media. And it's important to hold our translators to a standard where they're not getting rid of that because they think it needs to be gotten rid of. Because they think that their paradigm of always 100% English full translation is appropriate for every single instance, when it's not.
Agree.
Anyway,
we're not going to yell at you for it, but unlike some people on social media, we're not going to call you names because you disagree.
Naturally. Anyway, that is the show. The email address is ntrradio@gmail.com. The website is ntrradio.net. Check out VZMK2 moemekagatai.wordpress.com. Also, the Big Book of Idols.com. That's the Big Book of Idols. That's VZ's art book. 200 some Idolmaster illustrations.
Yeah, I put the MagCloud link in my Twitter because the other one wasn't working for me for some reason, but that's fine. It's got the Buy Me page right there.
Yeah, that's the direct link to purchase the book.
All right, very nice quality and all that jazz.
You can find my stuff at yashike.moe and otakuentrepreneur.com. Just put up an article on each of those, so check those out. Check out I don't even know if these shows are recording anymore. The Bakugaijin show and Otaku Midnight. But check both those out.
I honestly am not 100% sure on that. I'm gonna plead ignorance on that.
Check out Asobi FM. Check out the Geeky Panda stuff at the geekypanda.net, the geekypandablog.net. I forgot what his website is, but check out the Geeky Panda. He's on YouTube. He's on Twitch. Check him out. I am on Twitter at TEAnubis. VZ is on Twitter at VZMK2. The show is on Twitter at NTR_radio. Shinikiba.mo is where I sell half-naked anime girl figures. Business has been booming this year, by the way.
Nice, yeah. I gotta check your store.
So, and sort of tying it back to the beginning of the show, you're now standing on the steps of knowledge.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Gonna have to cross the moat.
Yeah, exactly. The moat.
Half a pendant of life.
Are you an orange iguana?
Christ. I'm Tom Force Anubis.
I'm K-Odds.
And I'm VZ Mark II.
And even though we get translated as Big Brother every time we say this,